Hi, we're here in New York with Paul Harris, who's been here demonstrating his new device, the Theraphi, which has been placed in a few cities in Europe, and now it's making its premiere here in New York and the US. And I'm here with
Inga Bylinkina. I have a background in Chinese medicine. I work with healing nutrition. We have a school in New York that's called Academy of Healing Nutrition, and we take a holistic approach to healing and specifically focus on food as medicine. And I'm excited to be here. We have been with Paul for a few weeks now, experiencing his new Theraphi device. And I would like to get some answers from him regarding his experiences with it, with people who have already tried it, and how it came to be.
Okay. All right, and my background in this field has gone back a couple of decades, working with various scientists and researchers in this field of alternative healing, especially when it comes to devices like this, which use plasmas and other technical aspects that we'll get into a little bit if you want to give us a little intro as to the basics. And I guess most people want to know a bit about how it works.
Right. Okay.
And we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, thanks for having us here. It's been a wonderful time in New York. We love it, and great people, and we're having a great time. So basically, background, a little bit about myself, I guess. I've been researching and developing these kind of technologies for 25 years or so. This particular device is a culmination of all that work, and basically it all got started when we were visiting with my good friend and partner Dan Winter in Europe, and he said he had came up with this algorithm based on Planck's length and phi ratio, and all these frequencies he found really matched things like natural things like Schumann resonance and brain waves, and in cross-referencing what Anton Perori was doing in France with his electromedical kind of machine, he found that they match very closely to this. So he said, "Do you think we could build some kind of device like this?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it." And that was like 2.5 years ago now. So it took about 1.5 years in development, and a few months back we did our first release in Belgium, and then one in France, and now here in New York.
Now, one question people might have about is how we introduce these frequencies into the body and using these noble gases, which are turned into a plasma, which emit a light that mimics biophotonic light. And is that exactly how
absolutely
it's introduced into the body?
Yes, yeah. The body is like a sponge for these kind of light that is emitted by these tubes, and you can actually see after people get up off the table, they have a more radiant glow, and we haven't had a chance to do any photonic emission tests. But this is key in the work, and there's plans to do that in the future. The work of people like Fritz Popp, who's done a lot of research in that area. We're going to do similar tests to that as well. Mm-hmm. So for photonic emission, it's definitely making the body more charged, basically, with these photonic
I've seen many of these devices throughout the years. Most of them come under the category of Rife machines, which are different. The Rife machines, I understand, are more of a destructive frequency to rid your body of pathogens by resonating them into oblivion, right?
Right.
But this machine is very different.
Yeah. So Rife called that the mortal oscillating rate, and different viruses and bacteria have this resonance similar to like an opera singer with a wine glass, hitting that resonance until it overpowers the pathogen and shatters it. Now, traditionally, that's how these plasma devices have been working, whereas this one's quite different. Because those frequencies are all derived from nature, it's creating a more of a bioenergetic field that you're bathed in, and that is allowing the body to come into balance and providing the body with the energy that it needs to do its own natural functions. So I like to think of it as the body is what's doing its health, its own healing. It's just that you're providing the body with enough energy to actually accelerate that technique, that process.
That sounds pretty similar to the concept of an adaptogen.
Right.
You know, where you're just provided with this additional information for the body with this extra charge, and then your body figures out on its own how to manage this new information and how to use it for healing.
Yes.
So is this something
Yeah,
along
absolutely.
those lines?
It's an adaptogenic electromagnetic type system. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, because we see that, you know, especially in with natural medicine and herbs that are able to, intelligent herbs we call them, right, that just are able to know if what the body needs and be able to adapt to it, absolutely, yeah.
So have you already gave sessions with this machine? Have you already tried it? Have people shared any experiences with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really what the stage we're at right now. We're gathering this sort of anecdotal evidence, and it's pretty impressive for, you know, what we've seen so far. There's been the one thing that is common for everybody. Everybody seems to have a little bit different experience, but the one common denominator is everybody says that they go into a really deeply relaxed kind of Zen state when they're in there, and then they don't just jump off. It's a 3-minute session that they're exposed for, and you know, at the end of the 3 minutes, nobody really just jumps up off the table and goes, "Well, that was incredible." They all stay in that place because it creates sort of a centering 0 point, which when you're laying on a table, you know, is right at your chin, and that 0 point is like just this really stillness that you can connect with. And we like to play with moving it around. You can pull it up into your heart, and it really has an emotional aspect to it as well. Some people laugh, some people cry, and I kind of think that if whatever it is they needed to do, if they needed to laugh, they laugh. If they needed to cry, they cry. And so it's interesting.
So it kind of opens space in your body to move the energy around, right?
Yeah.
It just like opens up this bigger field that where the possibilities open for the body to get a deeper sense of
Right,
feeling.
absolutely. And one of the terms I've come to call it is a human battery charger, because it's really operating at quite a high voltage potential. So essentially from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes is like 300,000 volts, and every single cell in your body gets a little micro massage because of this non-linear sort of capacitive effect through the cells in your body. That little charge gives every cell a little micro massage, and of course that's going to be beneficial for cellular uptake and elimination, which is really important as well.
Right, I think these aspects go from the physical to the etheric to the mental and the spiritual, because what's going on here is the body basically is, the biophotons in the body are super coherent, right? And this really modulates with that, you know, super coherency. It enhances it. It's plasma waves have proven in the past to interact with, and this is what these are, plasma waves that are being generated by this plasma light. And also, there's another aspect of it, of the rotating toroidal field that is created here from both directions. And when they meet in the middle, which is where you sit or lay in between these two glass tubes, you have what? How would you describe what happens in the center there?
Well, the first key thing you mentioned there was plasma, and if you look at the universe is 99.9% plasma, and it's also 99% hydrogen too, which is really unique. So it really plays, you know, has a lot to do with the creation. I see it as plasma being an intelligence, a consciousness, and a way to connect with that. And when you're sitting in the middle in that 0 point, what's happening is these fields are being created around each one of the tubes, and they're counter-rotating toroidal fields that meet it basically in the middle at your dan chin. And what's doing is similar to an auric washing machine, I like to call it too, where it has this scrubbing effect.
Spin cycle.
The spin cycle. You're going through the spin cycle, and
Yeah.
you're just eliminating, negative aspects that would be part of your attachments to some of your systems. And like you say, it's working on multiple levels. So it's not just a physical phenomenon. It's obviously part of the emotional, mental, etheric kind of body. And we've had some pretty interesting experiences with, even myself being on the table, where you actually feel lighter. You feel like you're almost levitating off the table. A couple times I've felt that back behind me and say, is the table still here, or am I floating?
I just realized that in the past week, we've been discussing this a lot, and I haven't really heard the word chakra mentioned.
Okay. Right, yes. Sure.
And it's interesting that usually you would think so.
Yes.
Because I'm sure that the chakras have a phi ratio relationship, as does everything in the universe, including the universe.
Yeah.
I guess I want you to comment on what might happen with the rotation of the chakras relative to your toroidal fields, perhaps.
Absolutely. So a similar kind of thing when you're looking at, chakras, of course, are very difficult to measure, according to the standard Newtonian model of physics. All this energetic medicine, a lot of reason why people don't quite understand it, or why they don't believe in it. They say, well, it can't be measured with standard scientific equipment. But we have such a limited spectrum ourselves, even with our vision and our hearing and our senses. When we look at the full electromagnetic spectrum, it obviously goes into much higher than we really understand or can measure. So these chakras are traditionally spoken about in the history of like the Vedas and in India as energy centers that are moving vortices, and they quite literally depict them as vortices, and they say they have like the nadis, these little ropes that kind of spin around, and what happens is those nadis kind of get bound up and tight, and they don't flow. So it's all about energetic flow and opening those channels, and the more you can open those channels and the more of an energetic flow you can have, then the more strength your light being essentially has in your more etheric body. So there is definitely a correlation, because we can visibly see the plasma and measure the plasma. We can relate to that. So that interconnection is definitely, I see plasma as being that next step to those really higher, more etheric fields for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, then one other aspect is when you have this scalar field
Yes.
that comes in the middle,
Right.
you cancel out the electromagnetics in this dimension, so to speak,
Yeah.
and what you're left with is an information field, right? That's all that's left. And
Yeah.
it's often thought that the universe is information, reality itself. It can be, thought of as all information.
It's a hologram. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we have a lot of different aspects of this machine: self-correcting information,
Right. Yeah.
and that goes throughout the whole body. And I think I know when I experience this, it really just aligns everything, including all aspects of your being. You feel it everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody's been saying too. They feel it at all levels.
Yeah. Well, one of the unique things about this machine that hasn't really been done before is this concept of the phase conjugation in the rays, and the way the power is distributed across these tubes. And what's happening is, like you say, there's a cancellation at 0 point, because when waveforms are 180 degrees out of phase and they meet at the center, they cancel each other out. So there's both a longitudinal, like a pressure wave component to this plasma pressure created inside of the tubes, as well as the a transverse sort of standard Hertzian electromagnetic fields around it. And when those fields meet at that 0 point, they're canceling each other out to and I like to say, a lot of people call it a scalar wave, but I picture it more as a field. It's a field effect. It's like a scalar field that's generated. And it's actually causing a twist in the ether. So we really have to bring ether theory back into the understanding in order to understand how these, because then everything kind of fits. And we've kind of gotten away from ether theory for the last few years. But you know, there's quite a few prominent academics and physicists today that are saying, you know, it really makes a lot of sense to have that ether theory to support these kind of concepts.
I mean, we see here this beautiful, really elegant piece of technology, and it seems like an amazing marriage of various theories and sacred geometry.
Right.
And you know, we had experiences with people just passing by and admiring how amazing it looks, especially when it's turned on and it has that beautiful pink color to it.
Yeah.
But say people, when they don't know it, they ask, what does this thing actually do?
Right.
You know, how does it actually work?
Yeah.
Say on the physical body, what do
Yeah.
people actually experience? What are some of the things that they share after they experience the Theraphi?
All right. So physically, we notice, like I was saying earlier, everybody kind of goes into that very Zen-like state. You get a little bit of a bliss charge, is slightly euphoric almost. And what we've noticed is people flush. They get quite flushed. There's some diathermic effects, which is increasing the circulation in the system. It's increasing metabolism to some extent, because we've had people who generally don't have an appetite or are too weak to eat would you know, get quite hungry after getting up off the 3-minute session. And I think you know, those things alone are quite worthy of, you know, going down this road and pursuing. Our plan is to do clinical trials now, so to analyze that data and get third-party validation on that. So that's kind of where we're at.
Great. And say, how long does it take for you know, for a session or for this experience to actually start noticing some changes in your
3 minutes.
body?
I think most people, when they're on there, feel differences within the first minute of the device being on. You kind of get the sensations. You feel you're a little tingly, and you feel some warming effects, and you get the very quieting effects. And that, by the end of the 3 minutes, so traditionally what's happened with plasma type Rife machines is you'd run these things for half an hour, and you do several treatments every day for a few weeks, and you start to see some effects. But what Royal Rife was originally doing back in the 20s and 30s was doing 3-minute treatments, and everybody's been aiming to hit that goal. And upon the first kind of inception of this device, I thought, you know, I'm going to start real easy, and I'm just going to go on there, I'm going to sit in there for 3 minutes, and we'll start working our way up to see how it feels. Well, at the end of the 3-minute session, I was just like, okay, I felt such a charge that I thought, you know, this is pretty amazing, and we haven't really gone beyond that 3-minute limit. It's really quite sufficient for, in really severe type conditions that we worked with. We do a 3-minute session, so we'll do a morning, so to the protocol, 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes at noon, 3 minutes in the evening, and we found that quite effective.
So that seems like a very actually fast-acting effect that you get from it. But do you have some ideas or protocols or something that you help your, say, clients, patients who try this machine to support the healing after they get off the table, you know, after the 3 minutes? Is there something they can do to ground the changes and embody them a little bit better?
Yeah, we've always recommended a cleansing protocol with various herbs and teas and things like that. One of the things that we've found is interesting is that the field sort of stays with you. We've had many people say, you know, I felt it, you know, an hour afterwards I was still had that field around me. And the other day we had a couple of people who said after experiencing it, they were doing a meditation later on, and they wanted to recreate that field. So they just pictured that field effect, and they could see, counter-rotating spinning lights, and they were able to very accurately do some visualizations and feel really close to having that field come back. So it's interesting how it kind of stays with you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we've covered all the aspects of this machine pretty well,
Yeah.
and I can tell you I've heard many, many good responses from people who've been helped in various ways
Yeah.
by it. And I'm looking forward to experiencing it more myself.
Okay, so we're all set up here. Are you ready to go?
Ready?
Okay, let's do it. So yeah, basically you are sitting inside at the 0 point in between these two tubes, and these very large toroidal fields are emanating off of this tube, and each one is spinning in opposing directions. So one's spinning clockwise, and the other one's spinning counterclockwise, and it's quite an intense field. You can measure it quite a distance. I've measured it up to 50 feet away. And then, of course, being directly at that 0 point is really the sweet spot. But the field effect is quite large.
I am feeling a little bit of warmth, not in the sense of heat, but in the sense of vibration. And I feel a little bit of energizing going on everywhere. And I'm becoming relaxed. I really feel like a circulation going on. There's energy circulating now.
So we go for 3 minutes, and that's a complete session. And then we generally just let people relax into the field afterwards. And most people will stay in the chair for 3 to 10 minutes afterwards. Just enjoy the field that's created. It's interesting to note the actual conditioning of the space, or the twist in the ether, as I like to call it. It lingers for quite a while after we dial down. So I'll dial you down now.
Now, to this point, I felt like, energy, vibration, and now it seems to be all becoming one frequency. That's it. I don't feel so much the modulations, if you will. I feel like it's all becoming one note.
Okay, so...
And I've noticed, by the way, that I've been in the machine a few other times,
Right.
and I cannot tell that it's been shut off when it has been shut off.
Right.
I still feel it.
Yeah. So that's basically what's all entailed with the in a session, and 3 minutes is quite a good time period. It is just quite nice.
Okay, so we're here with Paul Harris in New York, and
Inga Bylinkina.
and Alan Rhode, and thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.